are going to build a beautiful raised boreal bed, and we're going to show you all the different materials we have that we can harvest from the boreal forest and salvage from recycling, and we have everything we need to build the gardens to feed ourselves. So let's get started. We're building a circular bed. We are going to use some poles, 3 poles that'll help us make our circle even. And then we're going to start laying out the circumference of the bed.
Another thing for in the springtime is these rocks, especially the dark ones, will absorb more, heat from the sun, and so they'll help the soil bed heat up in the springtime. And same as our jugs of water, those are the heat batteries for the soil bed.
Yeah, that's cool. Now we're going to do a keyhole, right?
Yeah.
So to me, maybe that's what we could use these for.
Good idea.
I'm going to put a stake in, a couple, just to hold that center. Idea. All right. This is the better sticks to use. It has this moss on them. Yeah. And fungus. Fungus is always good. Mushrooms and that form symbiotic relationships often with the roots of plants. All these weeds we're going to cut, and we're going to harvest all of this. These weeds are actually going to be used as green fertilizer for in the bed.
Just lay it on?
Yeah, just lay it on there. Nice. All right.
What's next?
Now maybe we should cut some cattails just so we have some. They smell good. Yeah. All right. The wool is a source of nitrogen, and nitrogen is a limiting resource in lots of places. 1/3 of human beings, the protein in our bodies, is derived from artificial synthesized nitrogen fertilizer, literally. And so anything that is protein is nitrogen. This is the wood that is often used to smoke hides so they smell really nice. It's really punky, soft wood. And this is going to help hold down these light materials and hold water, kind of like equivalent to, peat moss in a way. All right, so let's start putting the moss on now. And the trick is to kind of pack it in because there's a lot of air. So I think after this one, we'll put more fertilizer and then we'll sprinkle the sawdust. This could be from where you cut firewood. It could be the bits of bark. A lot of times there's small little sawmills too, so you could rake it up. It's going to settle in those crevices because we're using such bulky material, and it's going to hold water and it'll also hold nutrient. Nature actually builds soil up, not down. Even though we dig, if you go in the forest, the layer of soil is actually created as the leaves on the surface. Okay, so this is actually very nature mimicking. To have a raised bed and to have the organic matter concentrated is exactly how the soil is created.
Mimicking time, stomping down the soil.
Everything that's like from the trees and plants is very high in carbon, so you need to have a nitrogen source. Blood and chicken feathers and the skin from when we butchered some chickens. And again, this is very rich in nitrogen. And so just by boiling it, it's putting the nitrogen into the water. And this has cooked an old cooked fish. And same thing, I just cooked it till it's super, super soft, just so I can spread it with the water. And of course, the animals will be attracted to it, but just for a few days, because cooking it really helps reduce the smell. And the sawdust is going to really soak it up. It's going to just suck that nitrogen in and very quickly decompose it and help the composting process turn everything into soil quicker.
This is just very poor dirt, our subsoil. And so what we'll do, screen it. The screen helps take out all of the chunks and any stones that might be in there.
And then, it's going to make it easier to blend or to mix, because if we're mixing compost and things in, colanders can be used. Just depends on the size. Like it could be bigger squares too. Sometimes there's like a hardware cloth. They'll sell at the hardware store, and it's like little squares, like a type of fencing. That would work too. And you could just make a little box and
make a frame for it.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't have a screen, you could still do it, but you might have to just do with your hands and pick out the stones. But this is the base. This is like the 2x4s inside your house. Okay, it's the structure. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add these other ingredients that are kind of like adding the drywall in the siding. Yeah. And this is coffee. This is just literally left after we made coffee. I'm going to add that. Okay. Charcoal is black because it's carbon. And if it breaks up like this in your hand, it's just right. Sometimes your wood, if it's not cooked inside, you'll have little chunks of wood. It can still be used, but this should break up nice. You're going to see how it's going to turn that yellow, and you just keep adding, stirring. And basically you can use the color as an indicator that you've mixed enough. And what the color is it's actually the organic, the carbon. So when they measure organic matter, when they say, oh, I got really good soil, I got 12% organic matter, that's the carbon. And the carbon is what makes it dark. The darkness is an indication of carbon. So if you were just going to be transplanting, it would be okay to use the more coarse, lumpy. But then if you wanted to plant carrot seeds or little tiny seeds, then having this finer soil is going to make that. But this could just be the top soil that you use, like I said, for starting your plants. And leaves are really rich in minerals. But I'm putting them down now just because they're a bit light and they would blow away. And so we will put heavier materials on top. And you could add a lot. Like you could, if you had a lot of one ingredient, then you could just use more of that ingredient, and you could alternate it with your other ingredients. Say you only had 3 ingredients, you could just still do that.
So this one's a squirrel midden.
Yeah. Mixed with
the top material, and we mixed it with some nitrogen, the boiled chicken feathers.
Yeah. And this would be something that would really replace peat moss. And we literally did this for free, didn't we? Yeah, there's not one purchased thing. And then you could just add more next year. You could add a layer of leaves, you could add a layer of squirrel midden, you could, mix soil again, which would be your fertilizer. Just
like in nature, just adds it on top.
The leaves would be really good. Yeah, there we go. I love it. That's good. Pretty much anything could be planted in here. Literally any vegetable that's appropriate for the north could be planted here. Even now in August, we could plant radishes still, we could plant spinach, there are even things, little early turnips, they could even be planted in here now that could grow in 30 days.
So the next steps is to plant your seeds or vegetables, transplants. And then we would mulch it and water it. And then
and like if you wanted to, you could plant pole beans and they would go. You could plant peas, they would go up on there. You could plant a cucumber, it would go up on there. So there's, and then it would create a little more shade. So you could do a lot of fun things with this. And that's how you build a boreal raised bed.